Can I say your
Brenda
names?
Deener.
And Jerry Deener.
Okay. And today's date is July 29th, 2015. My name is Avi. And we are here in Mattakesa. All right, let's keep moving on here. Okay, so some warm-up questions. Talk about when you guys first met. What was going through your minds?
When we
First met.
Well, we were in the same kita at Camp Vermont in the Poconos. I don't know if Grandpa noticed me, but I noticed him. I was 13 at the time. And on my way home in the bus, I told my friend Joni Nussbaum, next year I'm going to become friends with Jerry Deener. And the following year, I think Linda Lewis wanted us to get together, whatever it was. We've heard the story. Okay, go ahead. Let's see.
Okay, so I kind of knew of Brenda Applebaum in my kita, but honestly, in that year, I was a 13-year-old kid and I wasn't really that interested in girls that year, right? But the next year, what got me interested is that we were sitting at a movie at Vermont on one of those benches, and I couldn't see the movie too well because my glasses were dirty. And this young lady over here sat next to me.
Well, you're skipping something, if I may interrupt. It was intermission, and you left the room. And I moved from my seat to next to where I knew you were coming back to. And then you came back and sat on the bench, and?
She cleaned my glasses without me even asking. And to this day, she helps me see the right things in life.
Nice.
All right, another warm-up question. What was your marriage proposal? Can you take us
Okay,
through
that's all yours.
the moment? Do you remember? Or we can skip that one if you want to.
Well, first
You
of
can
all,
take a pass
start
if you
with
want.
Pinning.
Yeah, well, okay. So what we had at our college was something called a pinning. And that would mean I would take my fraternity pin and I would give it to your grandma, and she would put it on her, whatever she was wearing. And that meant that that was like a pre-engagement. And I wish I could remember the exact words.
I know where it was.
Oh, yeah.
It was in your mother's garage, your parents' garage. Yes, it was.
Not the pinning.
No, not the pinning, was at Penn State. There was a whole big
The
ceremony.
proposal was in the garage?
Yes, the proposal. And the diamond ring was in the, what do you call it in the car?
Glove compartment?
And
The
we
glove compartment, yes. So we were in the car, and Grandpa asked me to marry him. And he's giving me the ring, and who did we hear calling?
My mother comes running downstairs. I'm waiting for you. Would you please hurry up? Dinner's gonna get cold. So it was a short ceremony and request, but she did say yes.
Yes.
All right. I have one more, and then everybody else is going to start asking.
But I
Is
have
it-
a question.
Does anybody have the question about when life was like, what life was like together? Nobody. What was life like together when you were dating, when you were married but no kids, and then like when you had some kids, you were young parents, like what did you like to do together? How did you sort of spend your time together? So start with dating and then...
With dating, I'm from Rochester, New York, and Grandpa was from...
South Orange, New Jersey.
The only time we really saw each other was in Camp Vermont in the summertime. But we wrote a lot of letters, which we will destroy before. I'm gonna just destroy them before you find them.
Why?
We wrote a lot of letters through life. I went to one college in Boston. Grandpa went to Penn State, so we weren't in school together, but we visited each other.
So what'd you do? Did you go to movies? Did you go hiking? Did you,
Well, let's start at Camp Ramah because that's when we first started
Okay.
dating. So we were 14 years old. There was, in fact, this is probably an anniversary right around now is when we started towards the end of camp. There's 3.5 weeks to go. And when we were at Ramah, to know you were gonna go out with someone, it meant walking, the boy walking the girl back to her bunk at night. So we went, I remember, from the Beit Am Gadol after there'd be a pu'ula, evening pu'ula, and I would walk your grandma back to her bunk. And for about 2 weeks, that's what we did. We walked up and back.
just walk?
To the
That's it?
Gabor, yes.
The third week,
No, the
I
first.
held her hand.
Oh, there you go,
okay.
That was a big item.
There you
And
go.
before camp was over, we actually kissed each other.
Yes, that was it.
How old were you?
14.
I think we were older than that.
No, 14.
First summer, really?
14.
Okay.
1957.
And how about when you first got married? Like, what did you, like in your free time, when you
Well-
were just, did you go on more walks?
We lived in New York City, first of all, so there was lots to do, and we were still in school. I think I was already out of school. I was teaching, and Grandpa still was going to law school at that time.
But in our free time, we liked to go, we went to see a lot of movies, we saw shows in New York. And I remember on Sundays, Grandma would teach Sunday school, and I was teaching Sunday school. And hers, she would have to take the train downtown, and I would take the subway uptown, and we'd be waving to each other from opposite sides of the subway. And when we went and we taught our classes.
That's right. But we visited friends. You know.
How about when you first had kids? Did you kept going to movies, or did you do,
Well, we
like you
visited
get a
family.
babysitter, you had the babysitter and then you had to go out. Where
No,
did
we
you
didn't
go
get
out?
a babysitter right away. This was the first baby. And we didn't do that. We would take the baby, Elisa, with us and go to a restaurant and put the baby on the table. And we visited family. And in South Orange, your family mostly.
I'd like to go back a little bit while we were still, I think we were still engaged. We would come visit in South Orange, and we liked to play ball together. We would play tennis together, and on Saturdays we would walk to the park, and Grandma held the baseball bat. I had a softball. I was a pitcher in high school, and I was very proud of. I thought I was a pretty good pitcher. And then,
Did you strike out Mom?
no, that was the thing. I threw some of the most beautiful curveballs with that big softball, and she would belt it to the other end of the field, and I'd look, how did you ever do that?
Then you fell in love with me.
Who has question number 1?
Okay, we do.
Wait, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Share with us some of your happiest memories, but individually. So first, Grandma.
Yeah.
Happiest memories?
Together?
No,
No.
individually.
First grandma,
But
then first grandma, then
Well,
They
we
can
were
be
very
together.
best friends for a long time, growing up. As I said, we wrote a lot of letters, but I used to date boys in Rochester, New York, and Grandpa would date girls where he lived. But we always wrote to each other about our dates. We were very good friends. And we always knew, and what else? We were counselors together at Vermont Nyack. And we had lots of fun. We just helped each other with the kids and the bunks. What else? I don't know. Happiest memories. There are a lot of happy memories. Visiting Grandpa at Penn State, where he went to college.
What'd you do there when you visited?
Well, he would pick me up on his moped, and I'd have to hold my luggage behind me.
Grandpa had a moped?
Grandpa had a
It was
Vespa.
Vespa. Wait a minute.
It's a Vespa.
But I'd pick her up at the train station, which was like 25 miles away, and we put her luggage on the back of the Vespa, and we drive the 25 miles up to campus.
That is a truism. Happiest memories, obviously, when we got married. It was a wonderful time in our honeymoon.
Where'd you go on your honeymoon?
Well, we had to hold up on our honeymoon because my brother got married 2 weeks later, and we started off at Grossinger's to wait for them to get married, and then we went to Israel. Actually, we were going to live at the Hebrew University, but decided that was not where we wanted to spend the whole summer. So we were traveling around Israel, and we saw a sign in a store to go on a trip to Italy.
Brindisi, Italy, on a
Tram
boat
ship.
from Haifa, Israel, to Italy for $35. And I said to Grandma, we can't pass this up. But little did we know what this ship was like. I mean, it made the Staten Island ferry look like a big ocean liner. And the cook was as old as Leo and you guys over there. And but you guys were much better cooks than this cook. They didn't know how to cook. And Grandma felt a little queasy. You want to tell that story? Or should
I felt queasy as soon as we got on the boat, but then once we started going, I was fine. But Grandpa and a lot of the other people decided they didn't like what was going on, and they took turns throwing up on the side of the boat. And we actually spent a little extra to go on the boat to have our own room. The door never had a lock on it, but we didn't even sleep there. We had to sleep on deck because Grandpa was very sick. He would have to stay by the edge of the boat. But we met some very nice people on that boat, and we wound up traveling up Italy with them. A lovely minister and his wife who had just gotten married, and they were going on some adventure trip to look for some family castle in France. They had a little VW, and we sat in the back holding our luggage on our lap, and we went really quite far, right?
Was that the story where how'd you get back from that trip?
Brad was going to do that.
okay. So we traveled with them for a while, and then we traveled on our own, and we had to go back to Israel because our luggage was back in Israel, and a lot of our money was back in Israel. It was at Grandma's aunt's house in Jerusalem. So we get all the way, we flew back to Israel, the plane lands, and we're starving. They didn't serve any food on the plane. And I looked in my pocket, we had enough money for either a good meal or a train ride back to Jerusalem. So we decided on the meal. And then we said, well, how are we going to get from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? And the only thing we could think about was, well, we got to go to the American consulate's office and tell them what our plight was, and that we were on our honeymoon and we had no money. We told them, and a very nice guy, and he shrugs his shoulders. You know, the American consulate, he didn't know what to do. He went in, he opened his wallet, and he gave us enough money to take the train back to Jerusalem, and we got back.
We paid him back.
We did pay him back.
So our honeymoon was great. It was a whole summer.
Who has question 2?
Share some of your happiest moments apart from one another, either before you met or when you weren't together.
Right. You go first.
We can come back.
I'll tell you, I grew up summers before I went to camp, which were certainly my happiest moments because I loved Camp Vermont. We went to a family cottage, and that was always a happy time.
What'd you do there?
I went swimming, I went boating,
You go fishing?
and I went fishing with my brother, and I picked blueberries across the street.
How'd you get the bait?
Yes, my brother would take me fishing if I found the big crawlers. You know, it's the truth. And I would have to look under these big rocks and find these big worms. And he taught me how to put it on the hook. And we would go fishing. And the fish that we would catch, we would give to our Bubba, our grandmother, and she would make the filter fish. And the other thing that we did, my mother would send me shopping. Now I didn't know how to drive, but I knew how to drive a boat. And so I would get in our rowboat with a motor and drive it down the lake to the supermarket, which was on the lake. That was a happy moment.
That's fun.
What about you?
Well, our happiest moments, I remember sports was a big thing in our house, especially, as you might guess, the New York Yankees. And there was one player on the Yankees that is still my hero today. Who knows who that is?
Mickey Mantle. No.
Right,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. And the way it would work is that, you know, they just started putting baseball games on television. So whenever Mickey Mantle was up, no matter where we were supposed to go, no matter what we were doing, we had to stop. And we had to watch Mickey and see what he could do. Because he not only could hit a home run, but it could be the longest home run that was ever hit in the history of baseball. And we didn't want to miss it. So that was a big thing.
Yankees were bigger than the Giants?
Yes, bigger than the football Giants? Oh, yeah. I remember my dad would take me, some of my fondest memories is going to baseball games. With my dad.
Gosh.
What'd you like about that?
And my dad worked an awful lot. He worked 6 days a week, and you know, the only times we would have together would be on, like Billy Crystal, on Sundays. And Sundays is when we would go to Yankee games, the two of us, and then with my brother, and it was our alone time with our dad. And that was an important time.
From then on, the Yankees have been a big emotional thing in your life.
Big time.
Can I have one more?
Yes.
please? Other happy moments were, I'm thinking of one in particular, was Passover at my grandmother's house. We sat at a very, very long table because I had many, many uncles and aunts and cousins. And that was a lot of happy memories for me. Other thing? And we took family trips too. That's another thing.
Question 3.
What is your best advice for raising kids?
Oh.
Best advice for raising kids.
Kids.
I have one thing. Always respect your children. I hope that they felt that I always trusted and respected and expected that they would behave in a way that we would be happy with. And we've never been disappointed.
I was going to say, trust your children. And we did. And that was one thing that we mutually agreed on how we were going to bring up our children. And Look what happened. We trusted them, they got married, and they had all of you guys that are sitting here. And nothing could make us happier today than sitting around the table with all of our children and grandchildren and their spouses. So, sorry David's not here, but I know he's here in spirit. So,
Question 4.
yeah.
Question 4.
No.
Noah? Just say it from there.
What lesson has your professional life taught you?
You're asking me or you?
Well,
Go
I was a teacher, and I learned a lot about young children in particular. And again, I taught in a special service school, which meant the kids were from different neighborhoods. And, well, thank you. And again, you try to respect and take a child from where he's or she's at. And I mean, that's what I learned from teaching.
I learned a lot of human nature from, a tax lawyer, and I know especially you younger grandchildren, it doesn't really mean, it's not something that you think about in your own lives. And the technical part of being a tax lawyer is not what was most important. What was most important was learning human nature and dealing with human beings, dealing with husbands and wives, and how they treat their children, and how they wanted their wealth to pass to their children, and how some of them trusted their children implicitly, others didn't trust their children, some of them openly cared for one child more than another child. I learned all these lessons of things that I would want to be as a father and things that I wouldn't want to be as a father. And, so that was a big part of my professional experience.
Question 5? No 5. If you-
What
Go ahead.
What have you learned from your partner?
From our who?
Partner.
Partner.
Yeah.
I'll go first.
Can I, think about that one, can I get a quick follow-up on the professional thing? How about as an artist? What have you learned as being an artist your whole life?
Well, one thing I learned is that it brings me a lot of joy. And I love sharing it with people. My students, my children, and my grandchildren. It gives me a lot of personal satisfaction.
What do you like about it? What gives you satisfaction about it?
Well, the creativity of it. I through the years, I found what kind of art I really like to do, and it's a lot of physical art, meaning sculpting in stone or in metal, rather than painting. Although I did some of that also. Clay, just.
What do you get from creating something? What's the satisfaction part?
It's a very spiritual thing, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's an energy within, okay. In stone sculpting, you're working from just a big glob of stone. And there is, I don't know what you call it in Judaism, but there is this, what is it called? Somebody help me.
Energy, like?
No, there's a part of your soul.
Neshama.
And if, I always believed I never would copy anything. I would just keep looking and looking, turning and chopping, and all of a sudden, something would appear. And I always felt that that came from above too, not just me.
So you're like a conduit.
I don't know, it just, there is this theory in Judaism, and I can't remember what it is, but it's called something, and
Kabbalah?
not really. I'll tell you, your parents, this rabbi spoke about it a lot in New York. He was my teacher. When he would talk, I said, yes, that's me. That's how I feel. And anyway, that's what I learned and enjoyed.
Like the shards of glass, the shards of light.
No, it's not really in the Shema. It's when I learn about it, I'll let you know.
You feel like there's something divine coming through that's...
Yeah, there really is, I believe.
It's a lot
This rabbi that your parents had in New York, he's a very spiritual guy, and he would speak about it, this energy, and I just knew exactly what he was talking about. He put it into words what I was feeling.
You mean B'Tselem Elohim?
What is it?
B'Tselem Elohim, like the image of God?
Well, not the image, because first of all, working in stone, you're not supposed to do what I did. But, I mean, that's what came out, so that's what I did. What else?
You did 5? Somebody do 5? They did 5?
Already did?
Is there 6?
There's a question on
They had it, there's a
There's a
question on the table.
What do they learn from each other?
Oh,
Chuck,
I'm sorry, you're right.
Are you gonna go first?
I would say I was very fortunate to marry a lady with a huge amount of wisdom and sensitivity towards people, children, grandchildren, family. And I would say that I learned a lot about human relationships and dealing with all kinds of people, bumping off ideas with Grandma. She was always a superb ear and a very good listener. And in bringing you guys up, Grandma would take the lead. I was working, and I come home. I try to be as good a father as I could. Grandma was the one that I learned a lot of parenthood from, and I'm glad that you guys were the beneficiaries of that.
I'm gonna finish the song. It's nice to know. We parented together. My strengths, first of all, Judaism was a big part of my life and living, and I think I helped Grandpa in that respect. Not that he didn't have it growing up also, but it was very important to me and important for me to have our children be part of this, a big part of this. Grandpa's a very smart fella, and I learned a lot of things just that I didn't know about that he would teach me from when we were teenagers, in fact.
Like what?
I can't go into it. Nothing terrible. Nothing terrible. But I was very, I'm from upstate, I was very naive.
You'll never know.
What was that?
White
I think
Castle.
this is a perfect
No,
time to
no,
talk
no.
about Mrs. White.
No, we were kids together.
Mr.
We were
Castle.
kids together. No, this is, no. Anyway, I was going to say something else. I'll tell you what Grandpa really did for me. He brought a lot of fun into our lives. Our friends will tell you that he's the guy who always We're gonna have fun. He doesn't sit still very long, so if you go away with him, you better be prepared. You're not gonna sit and read a book. You're gonna be doing things. And all of our vacations have been like that. Even when we were pregnant with our first child, Lisa, we decided we better go camping because now's the time. My parents weren't too happy about it, but we went camping cross country in a tent, and we had a wonderful time.
How'd you know how to do that?
We didn't. We
Just
kind of just
winged
learned as we went, you know? Only I couldn't go on a horse. So of course, Grandpa wanted to take a picture of me on a horse and send it to my mom. And he did. Just to rile her up a little bit, I guess. But anyway, that's a major thing that Grandpa has brought into my life. How to have fun. Enjoying life.
Good one.
Okay. So thinking about your family many generations from now, and knowing that they may hear this exact recording, is there any wisdom or advice you would like to share with them?
Go ahead.
When it comes time for everybody to choose your mates and choose the people, the person that you're going to want to live the rest of your life with, choose that person carefully. Think about what your objectives are in raising your children, and talk about it with your prospective mate, and have those dialogues long before you ever walk down the aisle and get married. The more you know about the person you're going to have as your mate before you get married, the more chance the success of the marriage is going to be.
Did you guys have those conversations?
We absolutely did, at camp. We were blown away by our friends there that went to day schools. And they knew how to play baseball. You know, we didn't have this image. And I don't know if you remember it, I don't think you do, but we decided then when we were kids that when we had our children, we would like to send them to a day school. They're, you know, really regular guys and educated Jewishly, which was very important to both of us. I was thinking of something, yes, something to share with you. Whatever you choose to do in life, make it something that you really love, something that you want to learn about, and because then it won't be work, it'll be something that you like to do. I would definitely suggest that. And oh, I don't know, respect each other, respect each other's differences. That's very important. Not everybody's alike. Even with all the discussions, life takes turns and whatever, you still have to discuss and talk. And as my mother would say, compromise is a magic word. Compromise, compromise. And we respect each other. So 50 years, that's how this happens.
That's how it stays.
What else?
That was the final question?
There was one
The
more.
final question was what you just talked about. So maybe you want to elaborate on how do you make a 50-year marriage work? Other than compromise.
That's a big one, huh? I think respect one's differences. First of all, acknowledge each other's differences, and you know what values you share. You must share these very important values, whether it be education or religion, and what kind of religion and how much religion. You have to respect one another and allow for each one to practice and live the way one wants to live.
And allow for flexibility and allow for change of each spouse. It's not, when you start out a marriage, you're young and you've got the world in front of you and you're thinking about a lot of things, and as the years go by, things may change. You may think differently over different issues than you did at the beginning of the marriage. And when that happens, flexibility is needed, okay, on both sides. Okay, respect for each other, respect for each other's opinions, and respect for the fact that ways of life may change.
There's something else very important. Encourage each other to grow. Always encourage your mate to grow and do what he or she wants to do. That's an important value also.
Okay, well, I think we have time for one more, maybe? What? You want to say something?
The one you asked us to think about.
What did I ask you to think about?
I did that already.
No, about the world, about things changing. What's changed? How did you phrase it? From when we first got married.
Oh, what did you? How has life been different than you imagined it initially?
Yes. Okay, I'd like to
Go ahead.
have a crack at that. Okay. All my life, I mean, my father, I was too young to really remember it, but he was in the Army, and he fought in World War II, and he was wounded in World War II, but I was like 2 or 3 years old, and I don't remember much of that at all. From that time on, when he came home, throughout my life, it was a very secure life. You know, we lived in a place that we often took for granted, America, and that everything would always be fine living here, and just raise children, enjoy grandchildren, and nothing else would get in the way. The one thing that's changed, and I'll never forget how I felt about it, on 9/11. Eitan, you were 3, and Noah, you were just born, maybe 1 year old, 2 years old. And I remember when that second plane hit, I said, our grandchildren are going to see a different United States of America than how we grew up. That there was never an issue. We never were worried about any outside influences. And honestly, we think about that a lot. We worry about how is life going to be for all you guys 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. We hope to God that our country will be strong enough and that you'll be able to enjoy the same freedoms and how we enjoyed it as we grew up. Hopefully that won't change. But it's a different world now than it was before that second plane hit on 9/11.
Something you could not have foreseen.
Couldn't have
No.
foreseen.
Can you repeat the question?
How has life been different than you had imagined?
How is life different?
You don't have to answer.
Other than what Grandpa just said, I mean, politically, and the world is so different. I don't know of my own personal life is so different than what I would imagine for myself, for my family. Because family has always been primary, and immediate family and cousins and uncles and aunts, it's very, very important. That was always, it's not a change, it was always how I felt. What else? Never having your children be in want. My father taught me that. And I don't mean materially, but just having family and being loved the right way and included the right way. So I don't know how it's changed so for me, personally. But politically, yes, it's definitely a different world.
Any advice on how to make a house a home?
Well, just what we just said. First of all, never shout. I never would shout, and anybody shouted at me, I never answered. You had to come and talk to me. No, I mean, a calm and loving home.
I would say keep at least one night. Friday night was sacrosanct from the time we got married till now. We both looked forward to Friday night. It was the one night that we were home. We had our family together. We talk about things going on, and no matter what else happened, this was the most important thing, and nothing was going to change that. We were going to be there, all of us, on Shabbos Friday nights, and that was a very important thing. It was Mom who made that home and made those collars and made the soup and made the chicken and brought us together at the table and enabled everybody to just talk and relate, and that was a very important thing.
And when the kids were little, we took them to synagogue. It extends, and it's the Sabbath was very, all holidays, everything was important.
Anything you would do differently?
Myself, personally, now that everybody was, I'm sorry I didn't do more with my art or teaching or whatever. I am very happy that I gave my energies to raising a family. I stopped working to raise a family. That was very important to me. And then I went back to some work here, there, working at a Solomon Schechter school or whatever. But I think if I had anything to do over again, that's what I would do.
Well, and me, 1 minute left. Just want to give him lectures or get this all the time. So I would be on the other side of it. If I had to do it over again, I would want to more equalize family and career. I think I learned from each of my 3 children about parenthood and being able
Here we go.
to combine career lives and family lives. And in our generation, learning from my own father, career was the biggest thing, and family was there, but not as much. 4, 3, 2, 1. To do it again, I would spend more time with the family, more effort in in being a father.
You are a father to all of us, and we learned a lot from each of you individually and from both of you together, and we thank you both for all of that.
And we learn from our children, believe you me. Thank you.
And you can go to the Library of Congress if you want to hear this again.
And
Okay.
thank you for doing this.
Thank you. This is
Okay.
important.
This was a great.
Great.
That's for you. This has been the best time.
Okay, it says take a group photo to save with your interview. This is going to be difficult to do with everybody.
Maybe do it with just the grandchildren.